As I plummeted from the heights, my dear friend stood on the rooftop, her smile radiant as a blooming flower. "You are dead. Your affluent fiancé shall be mine," she declared. Upon opening my eyes once more, I found myself back on the eve of my elopement, urged on by her. This time, I smiled as I sent her off in my bridal car, saying, "Do marry into the wealthy family on my behalf." During the engagement banquet, I revealed the recording of her scheming to elope. As her faux pregnant silicone belly was publicly crushed underfoot, I crouched beside the pool of blood, whispering softly, "Does it hurt? This is merely the beginning." The cold wind sliced through my skin like a dagger, carrying with it an almost blasphemous lightness. The sensation of weightlessness suddenly seized me, and the entire world spun chaotically before my eyes. Below, the city's neon lights flowed like blurred, glaring rivers of light, coldly beckoning. Then came the impact. A dull, heavy sound erupted from within my body, crushing every inch of bone. Agonizing pain engulfed my consciousness in a fraction of a second, yet on the brink of oblivion. It momentarily tore open a fissure. I heard my bones shatter beneath me, emitting a gut-wrenching moan. A viscous, warm liquid, reeking of iron, swiftly spread across the cold ground. At the very edge of this complete descent into darkness, a voice emerged, clear and sweet, laced with a nauseating victory. Piercing through my last vestige of hearing like a poisoned ice pick. "Goodbye, fool. You're dead, and your wealthy fiancé is mine now." It was Bai Weiwei. That face, always adorned with an innocent smile, must be blooming in the fierce winds on the top floor, radiant like the most exquisite flower in hell. Darkness utterly consumed me, laden with seething hatred and icy despair. I jolted awake. There was no excruciating pain, no acrid scent of blood, no frigid ground. Only a heaviness, a sluggishness from excessive sleep, and an overwhelming, suffocating sense of unreality. My vision struggled to focus. Before me loomed a cheap plastic ceiling light, speckled with fly droppings, casting a dim, lifeless glow. The air was thick with the stench of low-quality smoke, mingled with the remnants of instant noodles and damp mildew, weighing heavily on my chest. I bolted upright, my heart drumming in my chest like a frantic war drum, almost shattering my ribs. I surveyed the surroundings, small, cramped. The walls were adorned with outdated, curled-edge posters, a creaking iron bed, and a dusty old desk. On the desk, my old phone screen glowed faintly. This room was the first tiny abode I rented after escaping the gilded cage of my family in pursuit of so-called love and freedom at the tender age of 20. A chilling realization, rife with absurdity, struck me hard. I had returned back to the very night when the gears of hell began to turn. My fingertips were icy, trembling slightly as I grasped the old phone with its shattered screen. The light from the screen stabbed at my eyes with painful intensity. The date was glaringly clear, XX year, X month, X day. It was on this very day, in my past life, in the depths of this day's night. Bai Weiwei would knock on this dilapidated door. With tears streaming down her face, she would clutch my hand tightly, her voice trembling with excitement. "Wan Wan, the opportunity has arrived. He has promised to take you away. Tonight, leave this place, leave that cold home, and pursue true happiness and freedom." The he she referred to as the destitute artist I had briefly been infatuated with, a man devoid of anything but rebellious spirit and hollow promises. What I was about to miss was the carefully arranged engagement banquet with Gu Yun, the only son of the Gu family, orchestrated by my own family. That banquet, which I viewed as shackles, was, in fact, a grand ceremony that would alter countless destinies. In my former life, I was blinded by the romantic fantasy of eloping for love, foolishly pushed into a rickety vehicle heading for the precipice, severing all ties to the clouds above. The phone screen dimmed silently, like a closing eye. In the cramped room, only the incessant low hum from the distant city and my own heavy, almost uncontrollable breaths remained. Hatred surged within me, like molten lava slumbering beneath a glacier, erupting violently the moment I confirmed my rebirth, sweeping through every nerve. My heart thudded violently in my chest, not out of excitement, but scorched by a cold, venomous flame. The agonizing pain of shattered bones from my fall, the chilling emptiness of blood drained away. Especially Bai Weiwei's triumphant, saccharine laughter from the top floor, everything was vividly fresh, as though it had just occurred. I closed my eyes, digging my nails deep into my palm, the sharp pain barely suppressing the metallic sweetness rising in my throat. I could not lose control. I must not. Heaven had granted me this knife of revenge. I must wield it firmly, sharpen it, and plunge it precisely into the enemy's heart at the right moment. Just then, a rapid knocking at the door shattered the silence of the room. Bang, bang, bang. The familiar, feigned urgency echoed through the air. She had come. I took a deep breath, the air mingling with the musty scent and noodle soup filled my lungs, strangely bringing a sense of cold clarity. I stood up, moved to the door, but did not open it immediately. The voice outside, tinged with a weeping tone, deliberately lowered yet clear, seeped through the crack. Wan, are you there? Open the door. It's urgent. A matter of great importance. It was Bai Weiwei. Her voice, sweet yet laced with honeyed insincerity, now pierced my eardrums like a poison needle. I slowly turned the lock. The door opened. The dim light of the corridor outlined Bai Weiwei's figure. She wore a faded cotton dress, her face a perfect blend of urgency and blush, her eyes shimmering with an astonishing brightness, as if harboring some uncontrollable ecstasy. Upon seeing me, she immediately lunged forward, gripping my arm with surprising strength. "Wan on." Her voice trembled with a weeping undertone, yet her gaze, like a hook tempered in fire, locked onto my eyes. He has agreed. He finally promised to take you away. Tonight. Her body leaned slightly forward, infused with a bewitching, undeniable fervor. The car is waiting downstairs. Hurry, come with me. Leave this cursed place. Leave that home that treats you as a pawn. Pursue your love. Your freedom. Her words were like poison wrapped in frosting, each syllable shouting for my happiness, yet deep within her eyes burned with a predatory greed. In my past life, I had been thoroughly bewitched by her sincere eyes and heartfelt words, my blood rushing, unhesitatingly following her into destruction. At this moment, I felt acutely the grip of her hand on my arm, a constraint that feared the prey might escape. I gazed into her eyes, sparkling with barely concealed excitement, reflecting an extreme longing for a new identity and new life, a wild joy at the prospect of my imminent removal as an obstacle. Every muscle in my body screamed in resistance, yearning to tear apart this duplicitous visage before me. But I merely lowered my eyelids slightly, concealing the icy hatred roiling beneath, potent enough to incinerate everything. When I lifted my gaze again, a perfect smile graced my lips. That smile even bore a hint of a languorous understanding and compassion I had never possessed in my previous life. Weiwei, my voice came out unexpectedly calm, even tinged with a peculiar warmth, like caressing the scales of a venomous serpent. You have always been so good to me. Bai Weiwei clearly froze for a moment. She had anticipated my excitement, my joy, my impatience. My unusual calmness and smile flitted through her eyes, momentarily replaced by confusion and wariness, but quickly buried under stronger waves of greed and urgency. "Of course, we are the best of friends," she exclaimed, shaking my arm vigorously, attempting to reignite my enthusiasm. "Don't hesitate, Wan. If you miss this chance, there will never be another. Just think about the carefree life you'll have." "Hush," I interjected, extending my index finger to gently press against her babbling lips. This intimate gesture made her body stiffen noticeably, deepening the confusion in her eyes. I looked at her, my smile widening, yet devoid of any warmth. "Weiwei, please marry into a wealthy family on my behalf and relish the life you have always yearned for, shall you?" Bai Weiwei's expression instantly froze, a complex visage intertwined with shock, disbelief, the panic of a secret laid bare, and a hint of absurdity. Her lips parted slightly, as if to refute, to scream, to question my sanity. Yet I offered her no time for a response. I abruptly seized her wrist with such force that she gasped in pain. In her astonished gaze, I nearly rudely yanked her into the cramped room, forcefully shutting the door behind us, the sound of the lock clicking sharp and cold. "What are you doing, Suwan?" she finally reacted, her voice rising in fear as she struggled to free herself from my grip. I released her, choosing not to glance at her face twisted in shock and terror, and walked directly towards the dusty old writing desk. Pulling open the bottom drawer, I found it cluttered with various forgotten items. My fingers deftly delved into the depths, brushing against something cold and hard. It was a petite, silver voice recorder, a gift from my father on the eve of my university entrance, intended for recording lectures. In my past life, I deemed it useless, leaving it to gather dust in the drawer. However, now it served as the match to ignite the flames of hell. I extracted the voice recorder, weighing it in my hand. The chilling metallic shell against my palm bestowed an oddly calming sensation. I turned to face Bai Weiwei, her complexion ashen, her eyes flickering with uncertainty. Once more, a knowing, almost pitying smile graced my lips. This time, I distinctly caught a fleeting glimpse of fear in her eyes, akin to that of a prey ensnared by a venomous serpent. Weiwei. My voice was as gentle as a lover's whisper, yet carried an undeniable command. Now, repeat what you just said to me outside the door, into this. I steadily extended the small silver voice recorder towards her. The cold metal glinted ominously under the dim light, reflecting a faint, foreboding glow. The blood drained from Bai Weiwei's face, rendering her paler than the old wall's dust. She recoiled as if scorched by the metallic gleam, her back colliding heavily against the creaky iron bed, producing a jarring sound. In her usually innocent and concerned apricot-shaped eyes, only raw, exposed horror remained. "Wan on. What do you mean by this?" Her voice trembled uncontrollably, fingers nervously twisting the faded hem of her skirt, attempting to conjure a semblance of the usual victimhood. "You doubt me? We are best friends. How could I possibly harm you?" "Friends?" I echoed softly, tasting only the metallic tang of blood on my tongue. I stepped closer, locking eyes with her frantic gaze, a cold smile curving my lips as I lowered my voice to a dangerous whisper. "Do I need to remind you? What lies at the bottom of your wardrobe, in that shoebox emblazoned with the Gucci logo? Is it the limited edition pair you scrimped and saved for months? Or perhaps a token of goodwill, prepaid by a dear sister to ensure you could successfully usurp me, the legitimate fiancé, tonight?" Bai Weiwei's pupils constricted, akin to pinpricks. It was as though a vice gripped her throat, freezing all her excuses and facades in place, leaving only an unmasked, bone-deep terror. She instinctively covered her mouth, as if on the brink of a scream. "How could you possibly know my deepest secret?" The limited edition high heels were a deposit discreetly slipped to her by the old butler responsible for liaising with the Bai family, solely to guarantee her success in ousting me tonight. That was her first symbol of stepping into a wealthy family, something she caressed daily, hidden in her most secretive place. "Record," I commanded, ignoring her crumbling expression, inching the voice recorder closer, the cold metal nearly brushing against her trembling lips. My tone remained eerily calm, yet laced with suffocating pressure. "Repeat verbatim what you said outside the door," coaxing me to elope. Otherwise, I leaned in, whispering the final decree into her frostbitten ear. Tomorrow morning's headlines will likely read, "Limited edition Gucci stolen goods discovered in slums, young woman suspected of high society fraud," or perhaps a more sensational version. You know how the media relishes such melodramatic tales of rags to riches. Bai Weiwei's body convulsed violently, resembling a withered leaf caught in a frigid gale. She fixated on the small voice recorder, her eyes brimming with resentment and despair, as if it were not a mere device, but a serpent coiling around her neck. After several agonizing seconds of silence, her shoulders slumped, the last remnants of her resistance extinguished. The overwhelming fear, coupled with the ravenous desire for the life of luxury that lay within her grasp, ultimately crushed her spirit. Resigned, she closed her eyes, and when they opened again, all that remained was a lifeless gray and a hint of reckless abandon. She extended her hand, her fingers icy as if made of frost, accepting the seemingly weighty voice recorder. Taking a deep breath, she began to speak, her voice parched and flat, reminiscent of rusted gears grinding. Devoid of the fervor from moments prior, "Wan, the opportunity has arrived. He has promised to take you away tonight. The car awaits downstairs. Leave this place, abandon that home, and pursue your love and freedom." Each word felt like a dull knife slicing through flesh, slow yet unmistakably clear, etched into the cold machine. The room was filled only with her dry recitation and the faint electric hum of the recorder at work. I listened in silence, my expression impassive. The gears of revenge had finally engaged their first turn. The recording's end alert chimed, sharp and sudden. Bai Weiwei, as if stripped of her very bones, loosened her grip, and the voice recorder clattered to the frigid concrete floor. She lifted her gaze to meet mine, her expression vacant, imbued with a deathly numbness. "Is it done now?" "Excellent." I bent down to retrieve the fallen voice recorder, meticulously wiping it clean as one would a precious artifact, before carefully stowing it in the inner pocket of my coat. The cold sensation seeped through the fabric, oddly reassuring. Approaching her cheap, faux leather suitcase, I roughly unzipped it. In my previous life, It had been stuffed with the meager belongings she intended to take while eloping with me. As I rummaged, my fingertips brushed against an item of markedly different texture, a pristine, tagged Chanel-style little black dress. Clearly, this was not an artifact belonging to the impoverished Bai Weiwei. Put it on. I tossed the dress onto her, issuing the command. Bai Weiwei clutched the garment, the luxurious fabric biting into her rough palm. She gazed at me, her lips moving as if to speak, yet ultimately resigned, like a marionette. She began to change out of her faded, worn clothes. I moved to the dusty old writing desk, pulling open another drawer. Inside lay an old backup phone, one I had long since discarded. I powered it on, the screen casting a faint glow. Then, I navigated to the scarcely used social media account registered under Lin Wei's name. My fingertips danced across the cold screen, typing a brief message. Succinct yet potent enough to stir tumult at the right moment. The items are ready. Proceed as planned. Lin. The recipient was Gu Yan, a distant relative of the Gu family, the only one to have questioned Bai Weiwei after my death, only to have his voice suppressed by the Gu family. An ally equally eyeing the inheritance of Gu Yun, harboring no fondness for Bai Weiwei. The message has been successfully dispatched. The light from the screen reflects in the depths of my unperturbed eyes. Outside the window, the city's neon lights continue to flow, silently proclaiming both prosperity and coldness. The grand feast belonging to Bai Weiwei is about to commence. The banquet hall of the Gu family estate resembles a fantastical palace constructed from wealth, crystal, and power. A colossal crystal chandelier hangs from the soaring dome, refracting countless dazzling beams of light that illuminate the polished marble floor in resplendent glory. The air is infused with the rich aroma of expensive champagne, the intoxicating scent of luxury perfumes, and a subtle yet palpable hustle characteristic of the highest echelons of society. Amidst the fragrant attire and the clinking of glasses, the elegantly dressed socialites engage in hushed conversations, each subtle gesture exuding an elegance honed through meticulous training. Beyond the expansive floor-to-ceiling windows lies a meticulously manicured lawn, its deep green velvet appearance accentuated by the night. This is the epicenter of power within the entire city. In a previous life, I foolishly relinquished my right to step into this realm for a mere semblance of freedom, thereby forfeiting the Lin family's position in this grand game, ultimately becoming a discarded pawn of the family and plummeting into despair. And tonight, Bai Weiwei stands in my stead at the heart of this stage. I conceal myself in the shadows of the second-floor corridor of the banquet hall, leaning against a cold, intricately carved stone pillar like a silent specter. My gaze traverses the throng below, landing precisely on the makeshift platform draped in red velvet at the front of the hall. Bai Weiwei is adorned in a Chanel-inspired little black dress that I meticulously selected, tailored to perfection, accentuating her slender waist, yet failing to mask her stiffness and tension, which starkly contrasts with her surroundings. A rehearsed, sweet smile, perfected through countless practice sessions, graces her face, but her hands, tightly clutching the hem of her dress, reveal the tempest raging within her. Standing beside her is Gu Yun, the established heir of the Gu group and my former fiancé. He stands tall in a bespoke dark suit, his profile exuding a cold yet superior line. He slightly turns his head, seemingly uttering something to Bai Weiwei, who immediately tilts her face upwards, responding with an even sweeter, almost bashful smile. Gu Yun barely nods, his expression indifferent, his gaze sweeping over the audience below with habitual scrutiny and detachment. The MC clears his throat, donning a professionally enthusiastic smile as he grasps the microphone, his resounding and infectious voice swiftly overpowering the murmurs within the hall. Esteemed guests, thank you for gracing us tonight to witness the union of Mr. Gu Yun and Miss Bai Weiwei. The MC's voice, akin to droplets of water splashing into hot oil, instantly ignites the entire banquet hall. All eyes converge upon the couple on the platform, filled with blessings, curiosity, envy, or perhaps the faintest hint of calculation. Flashes of cameras erupt in a fervor, illuminating the scene as they greedily capture every subtle expression on Bai Weiwei's face. She strives to maintain her flawless smile, yet her body trembles almost imperceptibly. The brilliance of the chandelier is overwhelming, nearly scorching her meticulously applied eyelashes. She can feel those gazes piercing through her, like a multitude of fine needles, probing her exposed skin with scrutiny, curiosity, and perhaps a trace of barely concealed disdain. Gu Yun's hand rests lightly on her waist, a gesture declaring ownership. Yet it only serves to encase her in a chilling confinement. He tilts his head slightly, his deep voice, laced with habitual aloofness, murmurs, "Relax, Wei Wei. It's merely a formality." Such soothing words strike her ears like a cold whip. She forces herself to curve her lips into a smile, teetering on the brink of breaking. Instinctively, her hand rises, her fingertips gently brushing against her abdomen, the very spot that represents her meticulously plotted ascent into the upper echelons of society and, at this moment, her sole source of security. At that instant, a piercing gaze, sharp as a tangible blade, cuts through the crowd and fastens upon her face. Bai Weiwei's heart skips a beat. She abruptly follows that gaze, and in the shadows of the second-floor corridor stands a solitary figure. The light sparsely outlines her indistinct silhouette, obscuring her features. Save for a pair of eyes that shine astonishingly in the darkness, like a blade forged from ice, or a chasm ablaze with the fires of hell, radiating an icy scorn and an unyielding hatred. It is Suwan. How could she be here? A wave of panic, as frigid as a giant hand, seizes Bai Weiwei's heart. The color drains from her face, her carefully maintained smile shatters, leaving only unrestrained terror. She feels as if that gaze has pinned her to the spot, rendering her immobile, even her breath stalling. Her body trembles uncontrollably, her hand clutching the luxurious fabric at her abdomen, her knuckles turning an alarming shade of blue. "Miss Bai Weiwei?" The MC's voice, laced with confusion, pierces through the microphone, yanking Bai Weiwei back from the precipice of overwhelming fear. She suddenly realizes that all eyes have shifted to her, drawn by her abrupt display of distress. Their gazes are filled with astonishment, doubt, and silent inquiry. I. Bai Weiwei's lips tremble, her mind blank, the enormity of her fear nearly paralyzing her thoughts. She frantically glances at Gu Yun. Gu Yun, too, has sensed her discomposure and the chilling gaze from the second floor. His handsome brows furrow slightly, his sharp eyes sweeping towards the shadows of the corridor, filled with displeasure and a hint of irritation at being disturbed. The seasoned MC quickly attempts to salvage the situation. "It appears our leading lady is feeling a bit anxious. Such blissful moments often make one." Before he can finish, a clear, steady voice, tinged with an unusual anger, unexpectedly emanates from an inconspicuous backup speaker in the corner of the banquet hall, instantly drowning out the MC's words and the murmurs of the crowd. The voice, not loud, yet as chilling as metal scraping, penetrates every ear. "Wei Wei. The opportunity has arrived. He has promised to take you away tonight." It is Bai Weiwei's voice, laced with a deliberately cultivated urgency and sincerity. "The car is waiting downstairs. Hurry, come with me. Leave this wretched place. Escape from the home that treats you as a mere pawn. Pursue your love, your freedom." The heartfelt confession recorded on her voice recorder is broadcasted in its entirety, each word striking like a resounding slap upon Bai Weiwei's pale visage and Gu Yun's suddenly stormy countenance. Boom! The opulent banquet hall erupts in chaos. A silence that lasted less than half a second is swiftly replaced by an overwhelming uproar of disbelief. Good heavens! What is this? Elopement? Bai Weiwei? Inciting someone to elope? At the Gu family's engagement banquet. Who is this he she speaks of? Not Gu Xiao. That Wan. Could it be the Lin family's woman rumored to have fled her wedding? This is utterly absurd. How dare she? All gazes transition from shock to astonishment, disdain, fury, and unabashed spectacle, as if countless scorching irons have seared Bai Weiwei's flesh. Bai Weiwei feels as though struck by lightning, her body jolting violently as darkness clouds her vision. The blood drains from her face, leaving behind a pallid shade of death. Overwhelmed by immense shame and terror, she feels as if she has been stripped bare and thrust into the spotlight. She instinctively wants to scream in defense, yet her throat feels constricted by an invisible hand, producing only ragged gasps. Desperately, she looks to Gu Yun, as if clinging to the last thread of hope. Gu Yun's countenance had darkened to the point where it seemed as if water could drip from it. His handsome features were taut, his jaw clenched tightly, and in his eyes, normally imbued with an air of detachment and control, now surged an overwhelming fury and chilling intent to kill. He abruptly shook off Bai Weiwei's instinctive grasp on his arm with such force that she staggered, nearly losing her balance. "No, that is not true. Yun. Please let me explain." Bai Weiwei finally regained her voice, sharp and heart-wrenching, laced with desperation, as she lunged towards Gu Yun. It's a lie. It's fabricated. Someone is trying to harm me. It was Siwan. She set me up. Her words tumbled out incoherently, tears streaming down her face. Her meticulously applied makeup now a smudged mess, leaving her looking utterly disheveled, devoid of the elegance she had moments ago. At that moment, a seemingly inconspicuous young man in a server's uniform, wearing glasses and with his head bowed, hurriedly navigated through the chaotic crowd, an empty tray in hand, making a beeline for the stage. His movements were swift and discreet, taking advantage of the distraction caused by Bai Weiwei's unraveling and Guyun's fury to edge closer to the stage's perimeter. Just as Bai Weiwei recklessly lunged towards Guyun, attempting to seize his arm, the server appeared to be unintentionally jostled by the throng, stumbling awkwardly. And the tray flew from his grasp. It struck with unerring precision. The metallic tray, propelled by a forceful momentum, collided violently with Bai Weiwei's proud, protruding abdomen. The sound of the impact, while not overwhelmingly loud amidst the din of the banquet hall, resonated like thunder in the hearts of all who witnessed it. Bai Weiwei emitted a heart-wrenching, inhuman scream, filled with unimaginable agony and a deeper, soul-shattering terror. What followed was a scene that would forever be etched in the memory of all present. Her once flawless abdomen, encased in a little black dress, crumpled under the blow, resembling a balloon that had been punctured, releasing a faint, nauseating sound. A silicone filling, grotesquely shaped and flesh-toned, burst forth from the indentation in her dress. Accompanying it were several bags masquerading as amniotic fluid and blood that ruptured under the immense force. With a splatter, viscous, crimson liquid erupted like a geyser. It splashed onto her expensive black dress, splattered across her pale, tear-streaked face, and even marked Guyun's costly trousers, as well as the skirts and shoes of nearby guests. The silicone filling mixed with the thick red liquid, rolling out from beneath her skirt and landing on the glossy red velvet stage, producing a dull, sickening sound. Time appeared to freeze at that moment. The cacophony of gasps, screams, and murmurs in the banquet hall was abruptly silenced, as if an invisible hand had clutched the air tightly. A deathly stillness enveloped the room, an absolute, suffocating silence. Hundreds of eyes, transitioning from shock to awe and then to sheer horror and confusion, were riveted upon the stage. Fixated on the woman who seemed to emerge from a pool of blood, her abdomen grotesquely caved in and enveloped in that viscous, scarlet substance. The air was thick with the metallic, sickly sweet scent of blood, silently pervading the stillness, invading every nostril and inducing a wave of nausea. Bai Weiwei stood frozen, resembling a cheap plaster statue drenched in red paint. Her body retained the posture of lunging towards Guyun, one hand futilely reaching out, while the other instinctively covered her sunken, deflated abdomen. The painstakingly crafted makeup on her face was thoroughly washed away by the crimson and tears, contorting into a visage of pure horror and despair, akin to a vengeful spirit. Her eyes were wide with terror, almost bulging from their sockets, reflecting the overwhelming crimson and the countless faces of shock below. She opened her mouth, seemingly attempting to speak, to plead, to scream, but only managed to emit a series of gasps like a windbag wheezing. Guyun stood merely a step away, his expensive dark trousers splattered with glaring crimson spots. All his fury, somberness, and desire for control were shattered by the grotesque, repulsive spectacle before him, leaving only an acute sense of absurdity and a deep-seated disdain. His gaze was devoid of warmth, as if he were looking at a pile of rotting refuse. After a brief, chilling silence, a socialite could no longer endure the dual assault on her senses and let out a hysterical scream. "My God, what is that? A fake belly. It's a sham. She's not pregnant. Good heavens. A marriage scam. This is a blatant deception. How revolting. What is that? A blood pack. The Gu family has been duped by such a woman. Quick, capture this. A scandal for the ages. An absolute scandal. Security. Where are the guards? Get this disgusting woman out of here." The uproar surged through the banquet hall like a tsunami. Shock, disdain, anger, schadenfreude, and a nauseating revulsion collided in a fierce eruption of emotions. Flashing cameras erupted once more as reporters, akin to sharks sensing blood, disregarded the security's attempts to restrain them, desperately pushing forward to capture this outrageous scene. Bai Weiwei was utterly crushed under the weight of the cacophony and the countless scornful glares directed her way. She finally found her voice, not the shrill cries of before, but a desperate, guttural wail akin to a mortally wounded beast. No. This isn't how it is. Yoon. You must believe me. They're trying to ruin me. Suwon is behind this. She completely broke down, collapsing onto the sticky pool of blood and the grotesque silicone filling. Her hands frantically tearing at her hair and clothing, emitting a frantic wail, resembling a madwoman. The security personnel in uniforms finally fought their way to the stage, attempting to regain control and clear the scene. They roughly lifted the writhing, sobbing Bai Weiwei from the ground, disregarding her struggles and screams, dragging her away like a sack of refuse, striving to remove her from the glaring spotlight. Crimson liquid trailed behind her, leaving a long, glaring mark on the floor as she was pulled away. Just as she reached the edge of the stage, on the verge of disappearing into the shadows of the backstage drapes, a figure appeared before her like a specter, silently blocking her path. I crouched down, the slender heel of my high-heeled shoes hovering on the edge of the viscous blood pool, the pristine surface of my expensive shoes starkly contrasting with the crimson. The black skirt cascaded down, brushing against the cold ground. My gaze was calm and unruffled as I looked down upon Bai Weiwei, now prostrate on the ground, being held by the guards, her face smeared with thick blood and tears, her expression vacant, resembling a dying fish. She seemed to sense my presence, her unfocused gaze struggling to lock onto mine. In her once guileful, calculating almond-shaped eyes, there was now only an abyss of pain, terror, and a sliver of incredulous despair. Her body trembled violently, and a dissonant whimper escaped her throat. I tilted my head slightly, the corners of my lips curling into a faint, icy smile. Then, I extended my hand, the motion delicate to the point of gentleness, as my fingertips delicately pinched the corner of the ground-stained, crimson-smeared, fraudulent pregnancy report. Under her vacant yet unwavering gaze, I released my grip. The paper floated down softly. Simultaneously, the tips of my high heels, imbued with a chilling resolve that could crush all, precisely and languidly descended upon that counterfeit document, a symbol of deceit and ambition, trampling upon the last vestige of her crumbling delusions. With a firm press, I crushed it. The paper emitted a faint tearing sound as it succumbed to the viscous pool of blood. I leaned closer to her, whispering in a voice so soft it could only be likened to the murmurs of lovers, audible only to us two. Does it hurt? The icy words burrowed into her chaotic consciousness. Her body jolted violently, her pupils constricting in sheer terror. I beheld my own placid reflection mirrored in her eyes, continuing in that eerily gentle tone, articulating each word with deliberate precision. But this is merely the beginning. At the instant my words settled in the air, Bai Weiwei's pupils dilated abruptly, and a short, desperate gasp escaped her throat, reminiscent of a life being choked away. Her head tilted, and she collapsed into unconsciousness. The security guard no longer hesitated, roughly dragging her into the backstage darkness, akin to disposing of a mere bag of refuse. I slowly rose, my gaze sweeping over the glaring scarlet stain and the grotesque remnants of silicone on the stage, traversing the still chaotic crowd below, shocked and buzzing with murmurs. Ultimately brushing over Gu Yun's countenance, dark enough to drip water, his complex gaze fixated upon my face. The prologue of revenge had just been unveiled. The air was thick with the metallic scent of blood, sweet yet frigid. I slightly lifted my chin, stepping in my high heels across the edge of that crimson devastation, cold and composed, advancing step by step toward the grand door leading deeper into a splendid hell. The end of the tale. Thank you for listening. And until we meet again in the next story.